but it's the same stuff every single day, and got really, really bored. Felt bored of just existing.
Mm,
Didn't
yeah.
want to exist.
I can relate.
Welcome to the
Everybody,
Bot
welcome to
Vault.
the very first episode of The Bad Vault. And I'm your host, Chris Carrier. And today we've got an amazing guest. I don't know if you guys heard it through some of my ads that I saw out, but guys, this is Matthew Good. No, not that Matthew Good. It's a different Matthew Good.
Yep.
And Matthew is with us today. He's got a harrowing story of while struggling through life. So we're talking to him today because, I don't know, it's been about 2 months now since we started working together, maybe 3. And Matthew, about 3 months ago, came home one day feeling blah and decided to take an axe to his arm. You can see he's got marks. Okay, guys, so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about how he got past that and came back to life. Welcome, Matt, to our show.
Hello, everybody.
Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. We have one mic today because we were having technical difficulties, but this is how it's going to be for us right now, and that's how it is. We're just flowing with what happens here. Okay, so Matt, I appreciate you being on the show today. My only question for you right now is maybe just get us started and tell us about that day. Tell us what was going on in your mind that day when you got home.
Well, when I got home, got home from playing board games with my friends, and felt very blocked off of everything. Didn't really feel any emotion really, and saw my axes just sitting in there, and then decided to just start cutting. And it's
The results.
yeah, it sucks now looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Of course. So now, guys, I don't know if you've ever been there, but Matt never actually had any signs or thoughts in advance about, unaliving himself. This was something that that day it just happened. So I want you guys to know out there that these sort of things can happen for people in your life, that they could just one day decide, I'm donesies. It's over, right? Yep. It's donesies. And Matt was that guy. And so we're going to talk right now, Matt, what led to that day? Let's talk about your life leading up to that day. So back us up about, 5, 10, 20 years.
Well, from my perspective of things, my parents didn't really pay attention, try to provide the care or showed affection the way I want to receive affection. I felt like they were ignoring me, whatnot. They didn't care if I was there or not, from my perspective of things. And going through life, things never went the way how I felt like they should go. So I kept blocking myself off. I moved a lot as a kid, so learned how to block myself from making new friends, and that just turned myself into just not trying to make friends, just put up walls, barriers between people, trying to get to know me, for me to know them. And it just began to shut myself off from everything.
Yeah. It makes life hard to live, right? It makes it hard to go every day. And even when you go out and find happy things, when you're shutting yourself down like that, like you shut everything down, it makes it hard to get out of bed every day. And so my question is, how did you feel that malaise? Did you feel like you were down and out all of that time period? Or did you even know, were you aware that there was something missing over that time?
There was definitely something missing. I could tell something was missing, but couldn't tell what it was. It was very difficult for me to express what it was because nobody really understood what it was I was trying to describe. Also didn't help that I didn't know how to describe what I was feeling. It really bothered me that people couldn't understand what I was trying to say.
I can relate. We all hate when somebody can't understand what we're trying to say. So now, over those years, when you're struggling to get that out, get people to understand you, what did you believe about yourself? What were you understanding about yourself?
I was beginning to believe that I was too stupid for this planet, that nobody really cared for me, nobody wanted to be around, nobody wanted to talk to me. didn't help any that I was pushing them away and making it seem like I don't want to talk to them. Vicious circle.
Yeah.
um, but like animals were the only thing that were pretty much there for me.
Mm. Yeah, I can relate with that one. I've got 2 puppies, and that's my whole life. My animals were always there for me as well. So, being the animals, now did you, okay, so you could connect with animals. Were you able to connect with humans over that time? I know you have a twin brother. In case you guys see, well, this, I see we're sideways here. If you see this face anywhere, guys, there's 2 of him. So, were you able to connect with your twin and all of that sort of, like, what was that environment like?
Well, connecting with my brother was very different because we think very similarly. We look well. We are mirror image identical twins, so we look a lot like each other. Most people can't tell us apart until we got older, and he's married with 3 kids, so he has a lot more of a dad bod than I do. And he has a wife who makes him care more about what he looks like, so he doesn't have as big bushy beard that I do anymore. He used to have a beard that was like down to about here when he was a teenager, early 20s, and then he cut that off because it just looked horrendous.
All right.
So I've learned how to keep it straight because of him. But yeah, connecting with my brother was very easy, but we never really talked about anything that really mattered. Most of our conversations, particularly in my early 20s, were like we'd phone each other up, grunt a few times, and then we'd hang up. And we would, okay, yeah, we know what the other one's saying. Okay, I'm busy that day, or we have plans, can't make it, we'll be late, whatever, just by the grunts, basically. So it was nothing too connecting with our conversations.
That's a communication skill I think I'd like to know how to do, is just look at people and be like, and they'll know exactly what I mean. That's a skill. That's a skill. Okay, so listen, I know we're giggling about this right now, and this is a very heavy topic. Both Matt and I, we've worked hard to get him out of this depression that he was feeling his whole life, and that's why we're able to laugh about it now. So I don't want you guys to think that we're not taking this serious. We're taking this serious. But Matt's been through a lot of struggles, and so listen, we're going back to the beginning now, Matt. I want to go back to, you've had all these struggles all your life. You're out with friends, and listen, it's not like you didn't have friends. You had a circle of friends. You had a bunch of people. I don't know. Were you hanging out with them your whole life? Is it those people?
Well, I moved to Winnipeg when I was for grade 5, but most of those friends I made in grade 5, I talked to some of them quite regularly. I don't count my brother as a friend; he's my brother, and we're twins. So yeah, I still contact with him. Last I talked with him was yesterday. But yeah, we talk quite regularly. Hang out. Used to hang out with him a lot more, but just as you get older, you just can't hang out because life gets in the way. Jobs, careers, wives, girlfriends, kids, whatever. So we don't get to get as much as we wanted to. But then I've also just made other friends because of work and whatnot and activities I do, like playing board games with my friends, which I still do pretty much every Saturday, except for the times when people go on holidays, whatever, people get sick.
Right. So, I mean, this was a night of the board games. This was a night when you guys were out. You had just been with your friends. You'd just been playing board games. Life was going on as average. It was an average day, nothing special about that day. But then you came home and decided, today's the day I unalive myself. Let's talk a bit about that. And where were you in your head?
In my head, I was more like tired of the monotony, the repetitiveness of how I was living my life. Basically doing the same thing, go to work, come home, walk my dog, watch TV, watch movies, YouTube, whatever it is that day. But basically, it's the whole same thing anyways. Sometimes play video games, go out with some friends maybe. But it's the same stuff every single day. And yeah, got really, really bored, felt bored of just existing. Didn't want to exist.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that. I've been at that spot once or twice in my life. So, what the day when you're not wanting to exist anymore? Really, what pushes you over the edge? Is it just because you told me? I remember you explained it. It's like you've never had premeditation thoughts. At least up until, like, I mean, maybe
Well,
long in the past you had
yeah.
thought of unaliving, but in this situation months before there was no thought of that. So my question is, that day when you start the cutting, what doesn't stop you? Why do you just keep going?
Well, for me, what was happening was as I was cutting it, I felt a sense of relief, and to me, that felt like it was a sign of keep going. And so I kept going, and for whatever reason, I started a new line and kept going. And then my dog brought my phone to me, and my dog hates it when I'm on my phone. And I took that as a sign of to stop what I was doing, and then phone 911.
Yeah. Thank you, Puffy. Thank you for saving him, Puffy. And that's true. People, by the way, who are out there, God sends things to help you, or whoever you want to call it, the universe, whatever. They always send help. It always sends help. And in your case, your help was Puppy.
Yes.
Puppy stopped you, and like you said, Puppy doesn't like you on the phone, but Puppy brought you the phone so that you could save yourself. And then you called for help. Now let's talk about a bit. Okay, so now you're sitting in. I'm guessing you were in the bathroom, right, when you were doing this.
I had moved myself into the bathroom after a while. I started cutting somewhere else in my house. Don't really remember where it was, but then moved to the bathroom, was cutting, and that's when things got worse for my health there. Yeah, lots of mess to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
It was not pleasant even think about it now then, and was definitely not pleasant when I came back from the hospital.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to clean that up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to laugh about that, but that's a mess. That's a
Yeah.
mess you're going to have to take. So now, okay, let's talk about that for a moment. Coming home from the hospital, realizing the gravity of the situation, of what you've just done to yourself and for yourself. And I say for yourself because I don't think in this moment you knew yet that you had just saved yourself, did you? But this moment, when you're getting home from the hospital, even before you and I chatted, what was going through your head? Now you've gone, it was emergency surgery, emergency services. You're in there, you're talking to him, and this is Canada, by the way. Emergency services doesn't mean emergency for young people like him. So now they send you home and they say, okay, in about 3 months, you'll get a doctor to talk to. What's going through your head at that point?
Well, in my, like, they had told me to leave the hospital. I had to sign a paper that says I was going to talk to a therapist. They had suggested I go talk to, and so I was thinking, good, I'll talk to a therapist. But talk to her first as a therapist type person, and it was much quicker service because I was leaving the hospital and went directly to talk with her. And felt like there was actually something to work towards, that like a lot of people that I even forgot about reached out to me, and some of them I didn't even know how they heard that I was in the hospital.
I called everyone.
But like even some of my friends that no longer live in Canada reached out to me. Some of them through Facebook or whatever services that they still use. A lot of them just still the original emails, teenager emails that we don't want to admit that we still use. Yeah, some of them reached out. Some of them even sent packages to my house as get well soon card type things,
okay.
or even memories of us when we were together, when we knew each other.
Oh.
It was very heartwarming to receive a lot of these gifts.
I'm seeing I'm hearing and seeing some emotions flowing to the surface there, and I love that. So you see where we say he did this for himself, he saved himself in this moment, because now, a day or however many days that was before that you tried to unalive yourself, now you're certainly seeing, holy crap, my entire life is filled with love and support and people from all over the world. And just like elephants, they seem to know that something happened to their master or their friend, and they're coming to wish you well. And you saw that story about the elephants. I don't know if you ever saw that story about the elephants, where the owner, the trainer of the elephants died, and the elephants were like 20 miles away, and they all came. It's the same thing with your friends. They didn't know, but they knew, and they showed up. And so doesn't that just speak a lot about how the universe is?
It was very eye-opening to see all of this happening and to experience it firsthand. You know, I've heard about it with other people or some animals or whatever, but very different to actually experience it. Yeah. Very eye-opening, absolutely wonderful to experience. Although I hope most people don't experience that.
That's not the way you want to go about experiencing it, right?
Yeah.
But ideally, okay, so this is your first boost. It started to give you that boost of maybe I do belong here. Maybe this planet isn't the one I'm not supposed to be on. And so now you're understanding you should be here. And that's when you and I started to talk. Now, listen, I got a phone call, not even from him. I got a phone call from his friend, my best friend, my bestie, called me about Matt and told me all about you. And so, of course, I rushed to his side right away. And, hello, I'm going to help you out. So, let's talk about the first phone call and maybe what was going through your head when now you have an option in front of you for support. What starts going through your head? Because I know for myself, when I was at my lowest, I didn't want anybody to help. I would just, hey, bye, get out of my life. Please don't bother me. Where were you sitting in that moment?
Well, in that moment, I was already shut off from everything. I already tried to turn away all my friends, even for like the past 15, 20 years, 30 years. That when this happened, people were reaching out to me. It's like, I'm going to hold on to every one of these people. If they're going to offer something, I'll take it. Like, it was very different, very different perspective of how I was going to deal with everything from that moment on. Because I was very much a guy, bachelor, I live in a house by myself, want to do everything by myself. And coming home from the hospital, seeing all this response, I don't have to do this all by myself. Why do I have to punish myself by trying to do all this stuff by myself when I have all these people offering assistance?
Right. Yeah, and it turns out like you were never alone. Even though we think we're alone, it's us. It's always us. We're pushing somebody out. We're pushing them away from us. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, there's always people around that want to help us, that want to be with us, that want to support us. And you saw that in that moment. Even I reached out to you. And so when we started working together, let's talk a little bit about that. So now, I don't know if everybody on here knows who I am, but my name's Chris Carrier. And, well, of course, I'm the host of the Vibe Vault, which you're watching right now. But also, I'm a rapid transformational therapist. And what the frig is that, you ask? Well, it's a really, really cool style of hypnosis, okay? And so what it uses psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, and cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's all combined into a little therapy kind of program that allows people to really get to the root cause of what the heck is going on with them. And that's what we did with you on our first session. So now coming in for this first one, we're talking hypnosis with you, and what's going through your head when I say, hey, Matt, how about we try this? How about you let me just tweak a little up in your noggin and see what happens? What's going on?
Well, the first thought what went through my head was the fact that hypnotists are usually like the stage hypnotists that aren't real, that they don't really do anything. Try to make people, convince them to quack like a duck on the stage, whatever. And that wasn't the impression I got when you're trying to describe it, though. But that's still a thought that goes through my head.
Of course.
Or the old cartoons where the spiral things happen and you get hypnotized to be a slave to somebody. Yeah. But as I said before, it was like, anybody's willing to offer resistance, I'm going to take it. Like, oh, this is what you're going to do? I haven't experienced this before. Let's try this. Worst thing that happens is it doesn't work. But it worked. So, yay. Much better.
It worked. So let's talk about that first session. Okay, so for the first session, just so people know, when I go in, I'm going in to go to the root cause, the very first issue of his, whatever he feels his greatest issue would be. That's what we went in to look at. So, of course, in this case, confidence, yada, yada, bunch of stuff that we had to deal with. So now let's talk about that first session. What's it like being under the hypnosis when you first go? Is it scary when you went under? What were you feeling? All about that first session. So let's talk about that.
Well, it was prior to actually being hypnotized, I was very nervous, I felt very guarded, like didn't want to be manipulated in ways I didn't want to be. But once experiencing the hypnosis, pretty much it felt like I was the one in control of what was happening to me. Even though I didn't really feel like much in control, after the fact, it felt like I was awake through everything. I could do everything. And if I felt like this was going bad for me, I could maybe take myself out of this. I don't know. I never experienced anything that made me want to do that. So, but yeah, it felt like I was in control though.
You are. Yeah, you are in control the absolute entire time. So for those of you who don't understand what hypnosis is, this is different than stage hypnosis. This is very much therapy on steroids, really, which is rapid transformational therapy. And so what we do is we lock his eyes closed tight so he knows that he's under hypnosis. But the rest of the time, it kind of feels like you're floating. What does it feel like for you?
For me, it very much felt like I was floating, or when I was experiencing like the past memories or past situations, I was feeling what I was feeling in those situations. So if I was at the beach, I was feeling the sand, the wind, the saltiness. Or if I was in the water, felt the water, the temperature of the water, felt the people around me, what they were doing, if they patting me on the back, whatever, could feel all of that again, which was very both inspiring and confusing, because how can I do this? But it was very cool experience.
So when we're talking about you're there in the experience. Now, I know you're a very visual person, which I loved. I loved putting you under hypnosis, I tell you what, because you see things like you really, like your mind just opens up to all of the other parallels that we are involved in our lives. And for everybody who doesn't understand, the human mind actually knows your past, your present, and your future already. So we already actually have all the answers for everything. So when he went in, he got to see everything from his past and his future. So let's talk about going back to the past first. Okay. Now we brought you through this hypnosis session. We went through a few of them. So after the first hypnosis session, I know you felt incredible. You called me, I guess about a week afterwards. And what did you tell me about your face?
Oh, my face was hurting a lot because I was smiling way more than I ever had in as far back as I can actually remember. Like, my cheeks were sore. It was very, very good feeling, but also it sucked having my face hurt because I was happy. It was very, very, very confusing and very good feeling.
Okay, so what is that feeling of happiness? That must have been something new to you, because I mean, you've been in that zone of shutdown for so long. So now, did you recognize that feeling right away?
Well, at first I didn't really recognize it, but when seeing things around me, like or seeing my reflection and seeing me smile, like, oh, he must be happy. Wait a minute, that's me. I must be happy. And it was very odd to experience it, having to recognize the expressions, not recognizing the emotion. Yeah. And so we had I just want to skip because we're kind of going low on time here, but we've in our session itself, we had difficulties getting to the root cause of his problem, and I couldn't figure out why. And this is where hypnosis works better than all therapies, guys. So if you're ever struggling and you can't figure out the why, this is the best way to do it. So I asked him, or asked his soul really, to bring me back to the beginning of the problem of all the fear, because you had a lot of fear of the unknown, fear of just life in general, like a general fear of putting yourself out there, which is why you hid, all of those sorts of things, right? So I asked his mind to bring us back to where it began. Tell me where it brought you back. Well, back to again. Well, in the first session, it brought me back to when I was a like a baby, toddler. Or I, well, I think what I said in the time was I was less than 3, maybe less than 2. I was on a beach, and well, I have as we said before, I have a twin brother, but I also have an older sister who's 3 or 2.5 years older than me, and my parents were more focusing on them than me at this exact moment. And then I got too close to the water and got swept into the ocean. And then a dog found me in the ocean and brought me back to shore.
Dogs love you.
Yes, animals love me.
Dogs are your savior.
It was something I don't remember at all, but that's what I saw in this vision, and it was very inspiring to see all this stuff happen. And it sucked feeling some of it, like being underwater and not being able to do anything about it, but it did awaken some of the things like why I love dogs so much, because they're there to help me, which also repeated itself after this. And yeah, it was very fun to experience, though, seeing all these past things happen, all the things I had forgotten. It was very interesting because I don't forget a lot of things.
You think?
I think until you realize how much you've actually forgotten.
So there's one session, I guess it was the last session we did, where we asked his mind to go right back to the beginning of the issue. Now, how far back did this soul bring you?
Well, how far back in time, I don't know. But I was a lizard-like creature. I had 3 fingers with claw, talon things coming off of them, living in a world that there was lots of lava around me. It was a very not hospitable place. Not a lot of vegetation, not a lot of other living things around me. It felt very alone, felt very much that I had to do everything to survive by myself, but there wasn't much I could do to survive. There was nothing other than lava, sand, charred, everything lava touched, and then the water. There was not much I could do to survive in this environment.
And so, like, when we moved your soul forward at that point, because now you're in that space where clearly that's where obviously the fear starts, and anybody being raised on that kind of planet would be frightened. So now we're looking at that, and you're seeing that. Now I asked you to grab him by the claw, grab him by the claw, right, and drag him forward to the life you're living now. And now by the time we did that, we had already brought him into this new world where he got to see his new life, which we're going to talk about right after this. So what is that you, when we brought you forward, sorry, I wasn't done. When we brought you forward, what did you experience? 2 minutes.
When I was brought to the forward, I saw myself creating things with like leather, being very happy with myself, seeing myself create things out of metal, like old school medieval ages blacksmithing, leatherworking stuff, seeing myself build leather armor, weapons, tools, lots of that type of stuff. It was very, very eye-opening to see this stuff, because this is stuff I've been interested in my entire life, but never pursued. So seeing myself do all this stuff in the future was very inspiring to see, and so then I started trying to work on it. I've been doing a lot of leatherworking for the past month and a bit now. Quite fun to do.
So we have a video of that. I don't know if they can play it. We have a video. Oh, I guess not. We've got 1 minute till the show ends, so we're not going to play that today, but we'll play it next time. Matt's actually going to be a reoccurring guest on our show. So come back and you're going to hear stories of, well, the claw and the claw guy. What was it like bringing that lizard guy forward into this new reality of this lifetime? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Matt's new life, where he's now got a new career, new everything, new friend circles, new everything. We're going to talk about LARPing, stuff like that. LARPing and what was the other thing where we saw the people on the horses? What was that called again? Jousters. He went to a jousting thing. We've got videos of that. So that's going to be on our next, not on our next show, but on the next time we have Matt on our show. That's also going to be there. So thank you, Matt, for coming to today's show. I'm sorry it got cut short. We had technical difficulties today, so we lost most of our show. But guys, stay tuned because he is going to be a reoccurring guest. And boy, oh boy, has he got some good stories to tell you about stuff that's happened for him, to him. And we're going to follow him over the next year to see how his life is changing and growing from this attempt this way to happiness, and you can have that too. So guys, we're going to have links below if you want to get in touch with me. There's a link below. You can get in touch. There it is, and we'll see you all soon on the next Vibe Vault. Bye guys.
This has been the Vibe Vault with host Chris Carrier. Join us. This has been the Vibe Vault with host Chris Carrier. Join us each week as we delve into the journeys of remarkable people and talk to specialists about innovative and traditional ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. If you face tough times reaching the pinnacle of your goals, this show is for you. Inspiration is on the way. Be loved, show love, share love. Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.